In this video, I'll talk about examples of rhythm in art, and it's in my book, Ellen's Guide to Rhythm and Motion on Amazon. A common ploy in art is to use a break in the rhythm to show the focus. So here we see the wooden ribs of the ship's hull, and it forms a vertical rhythm. And then there's an opening where we see a man and the house in the distance. So this is the focus. And these logs seem to angle toward that focus. Also notice that the foliage shapes are repeated in the sky. This image by Demuth shows a train rushing down the tracks. And the most obvious part are the fives, which follow the Papa, Mama, and Baby Bear rule. In other words, one's very large at 9 units. The mama is not in between the 2 units. She's only 3 units, and the baby is 1 unit. And this ratio of 9:3:1 suggests a train zipping down the tracks in a split second. There are diagonal lines suggesting perspective and depth, and then there are these translucent red and gray planes that dissolve so that there are no boundaries and the objects don't have solid edges, but instead they pass through one another. And this is called simultaneity, where many moments in time are layered into a single image. George Seurat suggested wind in this picture, which is very hard to do. And in fact, the wind seems to be going from left to right, partly because that's the way we tend to read pictures, but also because these branches seem to be going in that direction. And the only one that isn't being blown by the wind is this large tree that provides resistance against the wind and making it the central focal point. And the whole strength of the picture would be gone if this were also leaning with the wind. In addition, we see ghost figures where we see light renditions of the branches as if the branch had just moved from one position to another. We see these beaded vertical structures in the background as if they're being bent by the wind. And then the land has a sharp edge to define it against the sky, but there seems to be turbulence in this land nevertheless. This is a picture of soldiers after mustard gas. There is a lot of yellow in this picture with very little color contrast. In the foreground are 11 nearly life-size soldiers moving from left to right, helping each other, creating a vertical rhythm that's connected by here a knee, by arms, and by rifles. And then over here we have another group of men. And on the bottom are men who have been injured. And in the back you see a tent here. You see some men playing football, totally detached from the trauma surrounding them. You could try an all-over pattern, which is like a checkerboard with an even distribution of elements and without a focus. And since the attention is spread all over the canvas, there's no strong directional lines, so the eye just wanders over the image. This approach is more common in abstract work than in realism. But like anything, you need unity with variety. So in my crocheted blanket here, the unity is the colors. I limited the number of colors, and they all have circular centers. But there's a variety in the sizes and the configurations. In this famous painting by Cézanne, he doesn't use outlines, but rather blocks of color, rendering most of the edges indistinct. So the buildings and trees merge together. The painting is flat because it's low contrast and because the foreground and the background are similar in values, edge quality, saturation, and so there's no sense of depth or atmospheric perspective. Now the eye follows this line and then comes to a barrier on the right and then eventually goes up to the mountain. And the mountain is pointing in this direction, so we tend to look at the sky before we leave the painting. In this drawing by Seurat, The rhythm of the backs of the chairs is repeated by the shoulders of the spectators and then more abruptly by their heads. Robert Herbert said that it is as if we were progressing from the gentle lapping waves along a calm shore toward the heaving crests of heavier seas beyond, and the raised arms of the singer on the stage form another echo of the swelling rhythm, like a seagull sweeping its white wings above the waves. And then there are the vertical rolling movements of the heads, pointing toward the singer. These rhythms connect the foreground with the background, and its stability is established by strong verticals on the right and other verticals like the one anchoring the singer in place. This is an interesting use of rhythm. We had the bird on a horizontal railing in front, which meets this one going diagonally backward at a 90-degree angle in perspective. And then this one meets the one in back also at a 90-degree angle. And we have the bird in front, and it's diagonally related to this tower in back, and they both are sort of round structures that are light on top and dark in the bottom. So it's very interesting. And one question is this the moire effect, which only occurs when two grids are nearly identical in scale, perfectly sharp and tightly spaced right next to each other, where one is like rotated or displaced, and it causes a vibration. Now, this picture doesn't do that exactly, but I think it's the same idea. Please remember to subscribe and check out my book on Amazon.